All right, we are going to go ahead and get started here. First off, again, I'd just like to say, thanks to everyone for joining us here today. If you don't know me, my name is Britt Benson-Greer. I'm the Director of Client Success here at RealTech. We're very excited that you chose to join. Our goal with these sessions, this Day in the Life program, is to get our clients together and give you an opportunity to get some takeaways and different perspectives from other clients that work with RealTech, different destinations, different product type, things of that sort. In the past, we've seen a lot of good come from connecting our clients when they're looking to discuss a similar topic or share different perspectives. And our hope is that we can create some value by providing that at a larger scale to our full client list. We're definitely going to be doing more of these as we move along throughout the year and in the future. So aside from questions for Amy today, I'd certainly ask that if you have feedback or things you'd like to hear more about in sessions like this, feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat here in just a second. Um, as we get going here, there is going to be the opportunity for us to answer some questions at the end, as I said before. Just pop those into the chat, and Mia, who's on here with us, is going to kind of consolidate those. And when we get through our planned questions, we'll circle back to those and let Amy give her answers to those questions. Amy here, this is Amy Schimmoller from Village Properties. They're based out of Sunriver, Oregon. I'm not going to spoil too much of the fun by giving answers to the questions we're about to ask here, but she's been a client for about a year, and we're really excited to have her on with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invite, Britt. This is truly an honor, and I'm super excited to be here with you guys as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing it. So I guess getting started here, just give us a little bit more detail about your background and your time with Village Properties.
Yeah, thanks you for asking. So I'm actually, especially in the span of Village Properties itself, I'm sure we've been around for about 40 years now. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year, which is super exciting. I've actually only been here since August of 23, so I'm fairly fresh faced to the company and to our time in the span of the greater things. Before working with Village Properties, I was a project manager for a marketing company, so I had my hands in many different types of businesses, ranging from the medical industry to restaurants to anywhere in between. Very interesting time. And it was a nice time to cut my teeth so that by the time I got to Village Properties, I feel like I've been able to really grow into my position here and hopefully do some cool things for us. That's really helped our company as a whole. But yeah, Village Properties, like you said, it's based in Sunriver, Oregon, which for those who are familiar with the Oregon area, we're just south of Bend by about 20 to 25 miles. It's a lovely community. It's a resort style community. So a lot of people come here to enjoy the beauty of nature, the forest, do things like horseback riding, hiking, time outside, time inside, looking at stuff like the snow, or maybe playing in the snow inside the winter seasons. It's quite an interesting place to be, especially if you love the outdoors and love having really quality time with family, friends, and other people around you.
Great. So can you expand a little bit more on your role in the business and kind of what your day-to-day looks like in that role?
Oh, of course, duh.
No.
So I'm our business's marketing director, which means I basically wear many hats, as I'm sure anybody in the audience who knows a marketing director or is a marketing director knows. My day-to-day spans anywhere between client communication, occasionally directly with our visitors or our owners, to doing things like planning our marketing tactics, creating our marketing materials. It's really anything that our owners or our visitors see, whether that's in our homes, in our advertisement, on our website, usually goes through my hands at least once. So it's quite the span and vast of things.
Great. Yeah. So lots of hats for sure. With that in mind, I'm kind of curious for you. I feel like we all have one or two of these things. What's that thing that you feel like you can never get to that would be really impactful for Village Properties if you were able to, clone yourself?
Of course. I think we actually always make that joke. I'm like, man, if I had two of me. But yeah, the things I feel like I can never get to that always remain on the like not necessarily the bottom, but maybe usually at the top of my project list. I look at every day and I'm like, dang, is going to be basically those additional guest enhancement and even owner enhancement ideas. It's going to be things like adding partners to our guest perks program with basically by contacting local businesses that might be willing to be a part of that, creating additional resources, such as packets and other information for those that maybe are coming in with certain family members, certain interests, stuff like that. Basically, those periphery non-essential additionals that would help better enhance even further the stays and the times that people have when they engage with us. Those are often the items that I look at every day, and I said, yeah, if there are two of me, I would love to just, lay waste to my entire task list and
Yeah,
really drive things home in that way.
really lots of doubling down on the guest experience and what
Always.
their time in Sunriver is like.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. So then kind of jumping more into the logistics side for Sunriver. What currently is your booking ratio from direct and third party reservations?
Yeah, thank you for asking. We're very proud of our booking ratio, and I'm amazed at how well we do. Obviously, we put a lot of effort into connecting with guests on many different levels, not only on OTAs, but also through advertisements that place them directly on our website where they can do direct bookings. And our ratio on average is somewhere around 50% usually. In fact, in 2024, we averaged about 56% direct booking ratio, which is pretty exciting for us.
Yeah, that's great. Has that changed a lot over time, or has that been a steady growth?
That's a great question. It's really interesting, right? Because being around in the industry for 40 years, I think back in the day we only had direct bookings. And then,
Right.
yeah. And then the rise of OTAs like Airbnb, VRBO, et cetera, has really, they're a necessary player. We have to play with them in order to be our best for our guests as well as for our owners. And it does fluctuate, but I think in 2024, seeing that 56%, it seems like we've done even better than we have in recent years, which is exciting.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations on that.
Thank you, thank you. Our whole team works very hard, and it's definitely more than just me, that's for sure. Our whole team plays a part in that.
Great, great. So then, looking at this time of year, you're in February. What is your average booking window like this time of year, and maybe how does that compare to different seasons throughout the
Yeah,
calendar?
thank you for asking. So our booking window on, if we're looking at a whole year in the last couple of years, especially like back to like maybe 2022, we see a range between as low as 50-ish days to on average, average 50-ish days to up to 120 plus. Of course, we'll always have those last minute bookers, but on average, that's kind of the window we see. And then our annual average for 2024 was about 94 days in advance, so approximately 3 months. 2025 so far, because we're so early in the year, we're looking at about 100 days in advance because most people are booking for, summertime and stuff like that. So our averages average out into that middle place. And that's pretty consistent with the years we've seen. These first couple months, people are looking forward into their family plans and, you likely talking over Christmas and New Year's with each other. Hey, what are we doing this year? What do we want to make sure we get locked in so we don't have to worry about it later, maybe get better pricing or, hop on something, or just a peace of mind of let's get that in there. So a lot of people, especially this time of year, are booking quite far in advance, especially for our area because Sunriver, while it has some amazing wintertime and also fall and spring activities, summer is certainly peak season for us.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'm curious. So with you obviously being the marketing director and using RealTech for some of your marketing services, can you talk a little bit about the campaigning that you're doing to try to get ahead of those far out bookings, try to really uh, simplify that process for people who are looking to get out ahead of the calendar?
Absolutely. So we have many we have many things going on. Just like I think anybody who gets to a certain size, you kind of start to expand out into as many places as makes sense, and as also as many as you have the resources for. So we have quite a multi-pronged approach that we take in order to engage both new and old clients. And that's as far as we do, of course, traditional placements such as newspaper and print advertising and magazines in places that make sense for us and that we've seen some good traction for historically. We've also have placements, of course, in the digital space through things like Meta, so on Instagram and Facebook, and as well as Google, which we're very thankful to RealTech to helping us really drive forward. Your team not only manages our website currently, but also helps us with our Google ad placement, which really is a huge help because I'm sure as anybody who's dabbled in Google ads before knows that it's quite the beast to not only get to the point of doing a good job of programming, but also maintaining and understanding the changes that Google is constantly putting in place. So very many places. We also do direct mail placements to, this is mainly for our owners though, to try to get more owners because our
Hmm.
area is specific. It makes a lot of sense for us and we do see a lot of positivity from that. We also have e-blasts that go out, which is actually more successful than I would have ever thought when you do a good job of creating emails and also maintaining your lists. So quite a few
Yeah,
ways we're trying to engage both new and old, the or interested in the middle kind of.
right.
Yeah, certain ones are definitely great for those exploring and kind of starting to get to know us, like those Facebook, Instagram, Google ads, whereas some of the other ones, such as the e-blasts and even some of our retarget ads that we use on Facebook and Instagram, those are meant to re-engage people that have kind of started like seeing us and meeting us and thinking about maybe staying with us but haven't pulled the trigger yet. So
Definitely.
many places.
So with the email marketing, where you're able to be a little more targeted based off your seasonality, exactly what you're going after right then, do you find that for Village, you're going more after filling last minute bookings, or are you trying to really stay ahead of that 90 to 50-day window that you experience?
Yeah,
That's a
so
pretty hefty window compared to the industry at a whole right now, I feel like. So I'm curious how you manage that.
yes, so it's quite, we do both. We definitely do both. And there's a mix of ways that we try to engage people in those e-blasts. But we definitely try, when I do when I do my planning, my building out, I try to, before the start of every year, build out the entire year on a whole, at least for high level bullet points. So I have month by month, what are my focuses? What are my sub focuses? And when do I want to start basically advertising for these things? So for example, Mother's Day is in May. When am I likely going to start advertising for Mother's Day? And there's many ways that you can choose as a marketer or as an owner when you want to start advertising these things to your guests. What I usually like to look at, kind of like you mentioned, is our average booking window. And with the right tools in place, you actually can see when people historically, like your lead time for booking for certain weekends, certain holidays, certain periods. And that's kind of how I like to do my best to choose when some of these marketing pieces go into effect. But on average, it's usually, because that window is a couple months out for those that are being really generous, but those last minute ones are a couple, maybe a couple weeks before. It's going to be a mix of me, especially for our high times, especially with you guys. You guys help us with some of our email marketing too. We've already started advertising for summer, basically, because it's filling up, and we're basically giving people those, hey, heads up, get it now before it's gone. And then we'll also
Great.
have those last minutes, such as like Valentine's Day. We did a last minute promotion that basically went out a couple days before that, just to kind of fill in the gaps for any last minute Valentine's Day shoppers we had. So two-pronged approach. I personally think with, especially with, we've seen data specifically from VRBO, but I think it's a good benchmark for our company and also our industry as a whole for at least our area. A lot of people are doing research as early as 80 to 90 plus days out when they're especially new to somewhere. So you have to really start making sure that you're getting in their heads early so that as they continue to research, you keep hopefully popping up. On average, it takes a guest or just an online shopper or online buyer, which I do count our guests as so because a lot of our direct bookings do come online, or even obviously pretty much all OTA bookings are
Hmm.
online. Um,
Right.
yeah, on average, a guest has to interact with a brand, or any online shopper has to interact with a brand about 7 to 9 times before they decide to make that purchase. And especially in our
Right.
industry, very few people are going to book a rental on the fly. It usually takes time. They look at a couple, if not a couple rentals, at least a couple companies. And then also, talk with who they're going with, stuff like that. So it's much
Right.
more of a ingrained process than buying a
Yeah.
soap online. So you have to get in there early.
Right. It sounds like you're doing a really good job of covering both far out, closer up, covering across different platforms, making sure to re-engage and retarget people. So you're really kind of got all your bases covered to a degree.
We're doing our best. It's always
Good. I'm glad. Well, I'm gonna kind of move around my planned questions here because I think you're kind of getting into a good territory of really talking about the tools and platforms strategies that you're using. Oh, what for you are some of the underrated tools and platforms that you're using to market the business, or that you're using operationally or using for rates, anything really throughout Village Properties?
Sure, I'll give you, yeah, I have a couple tools, platforms, or strategies that I think are really important to at least us, and I think are worth other people giving a try, or at least some thought if they haven't already. I think one of the first things, as far as like actual tools and marketing, strategize email marketing, especially with list curation and cleaning. This is actually something that I feel kind of silly I didn't realize sooner, and I think I actually learned it talking with your team and coming into working with you guys, is that it's extremely important to clean up your lists and make sure that you're really only talking to those that want to talk to you or want to engage with your brand. This is
Hmm.
something that is really detrimental to your ability to send emails. There is an online database that keeps track of basically bad players in the email marketing industry. And if you have certain marks against you, you're more likely to have your emails that you send out dropped into the spam folder. So, what list curation cleaning basically means, we have a automation in place on our email marketing service. We use Brevo, which used to be Sendinblue, which we like because it charges you based on how many emails you're sending, not necessarily how many people are in your list, which after you get to a certain level, it is really beneficial. We have quite a few people in our list, but only a percentage of them, I would say maybe 20%, are actually active users. You have to remember, we've been gathering this list for years now, and a lot of people will fall out of interest. So we have an automation in place that after 6 months, if someone hasn't opened one of our emails, they basically get a one last engagement email saying, hey, we miss you. If you're still here, please, but just by opening this email, you're engaging with us and you'll stay in our newsletter list. But if you don't, we're just, we understand. Feel free to come back, but um,
Right.
we'll talk to you when you're ready, sort of thing.
But you're engaged in more quality audience members than quantity, which I think is a
Exactly.
balance that everyone kind of is trying to figure out for themselves. Certainly, you
Exactly.
want to expand on the pool and have as many potential bites as possible. But what
Exactly.
is the cost of a large amount that you're both paying for and that are unengaged with the
And that's the
content?
hard part, right? I think sometimes we look at these large, especially if we have a larger email list, we look at every one of them as a potential sale, of course. But we have to sometimes remember that if you're going to lose more by trying to engage this person that doesn't want to be talking to you, that's going to likely, not work out in the end. And it's a strategy we found really beneficial. Since we started clean up our list, we took it from, I think in the back then it was like a 5 to 7% open rate. We're now up to about 50 open rate, which is awesome. So huge engagements on still a pretty significant segment of people. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and especially with how people want to be advertised to today, all the industry information I'm seeing is that people want advertisements that are more tailored to them and that really speak to themselves and their interests. So if you're trying to, smack your head against the wall against people that don't want to be talking to you, you're likely to have a more negative outcome than you are to have a positive one, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes a lot of sense to me. So in terms of kind of circling back here, I'll actually let's just say kind of where we are. I'm curious, talking about your underrated platforms, strategies, things of that nature. Hot button topic here. What is an overrated tool, platform, strategy, something you think gets a lot of flash, but maybe for you doesn't do as much as you'd like it to?
Yeah, I know. I think this is not going to be a surprising one, but for me, it's many, many, many AI tools. um, there's, we of course, it's the hot button tech. It's been the hot button tech for the last couple of years, and especially now that we have so many things popping up that is specific to our industry, or even just general to all industries. We feel, I think a lot of people across industries feel the pressure to be implementing AI no matter what. Sometimes I think there's a lot of, because it's such a popularity thing and people feel like they're automatically falling behind by not implementing it. Sometimes people aren't taking the time to really look at the AI tools in front of them, strategize with them, and pick which ones are the best fit. To me, it's really good to sit down and think, what's my problem and what would this be, what would this present a solution to, as opposed to just saying, I have to use AI somewhere, so I'm going to try it here. I think
Right.
the time to really look at it. I think, for example, we implemented an AI that did solve a problem. It was something because we're seeing such good traction inside our e-marketing. It was a AI that basically helped us glean emails from visitors on our website, which was done. It was done completely legally and stuff like that, of course. But we found that it was something that didn't make sense in the end, cost wise, and also obviously people aren't always really excited when you send them emails that they're not expecting. So it's one of those things where sometimes really look at the tools and choose the ones that make sense, and also if you can negotiate trials for them. Very few AI tools these days are free. And if you have a rep that you can try to negotiate a trial period, especially for little to no cost, that's what I would recommend, because there's just so much going on, and it's really good to take that time to make sure that what you're choosing is really going to be beneficial, as opposed to something you set, forget, and then realize you're unfortunately spending a lot of money on and not getting a lot of return.
Great. Yeah. All good advice. Any other underrated or overrated tools, platforms,
Yeah,
marketing wise or
yeah.
operationally?
Of course. Another one that I think a lot of people feel pressured into, but aren't necessarily giving the time and space or even need for, is their social media postings. So this is actually a huge background I had was in social media management and marketing particularly. And what I found a lot of businesses did, sometimes even well, was posting regularly, which of course is the big thing we all hear. We need to post regularly. The algorithm likes it. But it's kind of, if you ask me, the thing that a lot of businesses lack is forgetting that social media is meant to be social and not to be a sales platform. Sometimes I know that we have an audience and we want to remind people, hey, we're selling these things, or we want you to come stay with us. We have these things going on, like come stay with us, come book a home, come do this, that. But in the end, the reason why people are online is to engage and connect. And if you're not providing content that allows them to engage and connect with your brand or business, I think that it's a possibility that you're missing out on future clients. And I also want to make it very clear that I think the other big mistake that a lot of people think of when they look at social media is they expect direct sales from it. Social
Mhm.
media is a long game. It's a slow burn. The whole point of it, like I said, is to engage and connect your audience, but not in a way that necessarily drives immediate sales. It's in a way that they build an emotional attachment and relationship to you, because they've seen you, they've seen the people, they've envisioned, who you are as a company, who the owners are, who the other people that are engaged in the company are, even other people who have visited the area are, and want to kind of become part of that group. So it's one of those things where you have to look at it as something that is basically a brand investment, and it will likely yield sales over time, but it's not something that you can directly look at and be saying to yourself, oh, clearly this booking came from this person who engaged with this post. I know that's kind of hard for some people to hear, and maybe that's a good thing to hear, because then you can say to yourself, maybe it's better I engage with my time and other resources and other places. But that's at least my take on social media and how it should be treated for the best results, at least on the posting side. Obviously, the ad placement side is a completely separate
Yeah,
deal.
totally.
Yeah.
100%. And I mean, I'd say from like RealTech's perspective, unsolicited, feedback from our side, really, we tend to agree with that approach to social media, which is, there's a place that you can use it to kind of drop calls to action in there, and you can pull some potential for sales there. But social media is so much about engaging with the brand, engaging with who you are, that personality that makes people kind of commit to staying with you in that destination versus somebody else.
Absolutely. Everybody wants to have fun. Not everybody wants to be sold to. And that's the hard part. And you have to be
Yeah,
creative in how you're basically long gaming to sell to them in the end.
yeah. Not a part of marketing that I was ever especially good at. So I'm glad you're
It's
here to kind
tough.
of speak to that a little bit.
It's hard for sure. And honestly, I think there's always, especially me, there's always room for growth on my end. So I'm definitely not the perfect person at it either. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that in particular.
Good deal. Well, and that's kind of a great segue because I am curious. One of the questions I want to make sure we ask today: what are three things that you feel like you, in your role or village properties as a management company, does especially well that makes you successful?
Yeah, thank you for asking. That's a great question, and I'm super proud to give these answers because I really think that Village Properties has been an amazing company. We're owned by amazing people, and they really care about not only their workers, but also the guests and the owners that we work with to provide homes to those visiting our area. Um, the first thing that I think we really excel at, and I think is probably one of the most important things, is that we really work hard to provide a great service, not only to our guests, but also our owners. I think that customer service is always going to be the thing that takes you furthest, no matter how good you are at marketing, no matter how good you are at logistics, sales, anything. In my opinion, if you don't have customer service, especially in the hospitality industry, you're going to fall short. Word gets around, and you may not succeed as well as you could. And being around for 40 years, 4 decades, you would hope we'd have some good customer service behind us, and I truly believe we do. We try to, I think the thing that we do that's really special whenever we get reached out with an issue is that our customer service team, shout out to my property manager and her whole team up front, are doing amazing work up there. They really try to address not only the physical needs that our guests and owners bring to us, but also the emotional needs. I truly believe that every time you have an interaction with a client, there's two needs that are often need to be met. Oftentimes they're coming with you with an issue, whether that's something's broken in the home, or I need to change my reservation, or an owner saying, hey, we're actually coming in tomorrow last minute. Can you please fit us into our home if there's not a guest there, XYZ. So there's oftentimes an immediate problem to be solved, whether that's fixing that broken thing, changing that reservation, getting an owner into their home. But there's also the emotional needs that need to be met that tells that client that you're interacting with that you really care and you're here on their side to help them have the best experience possible. So our team is really fantastic at making sure they meet both needs, whether the client knows that they have both or not, and provide that exemplary experience that keeps us having owners that have stayed on with us for 20 plus years, or guests that book with us every Christmas. Like that's really, in my opinion, what makes or breaks a company, and makes or breaks whether or not you have these people that want to continue working with you. I think another
Yeah,
thing, yeah, sorry.
absolutely. No, no, absolutely. Keep it
I
going, but I would
know.
agree.
Yeah, thank you. I would say another thing that our company is really fantastic at, and another shout out to our ownership and our front desk slash property management team, is finding homes that are a good match for us. Of course, in an ideal world, every home owner that walks through the door, we're going to work with, and we want to work with. But sometimes, depending on what the homeowner needs and envisioning for their rental are, or our processes, there's homeowners that we may not be a great fit for. And there are people that we recommend out to other companies for certain reasons. And that's really, I think, what helps us be successful in the end, is that while we of course are going to do everything in our power to create the best relationship and the best experience for our homeowners, sometimes some homes or some owners just aren't a good fit for our team or our company. And finding those that are is really a key to success, because then you just automatically work well together, and it creates less friction down the line when things do pop up. So shout out to my property manager, Nicole. She does a fantastic job really getting to know the owners and understanding those that are a great fit for a company, and recommending those that may be a better fit for another company. Those
Would
connections.
you mind would you mind sharing maybe a couple key things that identify someone, maybe a red flag for Village?
Yeah.
It's okay if not.
I hate talking about the negatives, but a couple a couple that I can at least immediately remember since working with this company. It's stuff like, some owners may not be a good fit for our pricing structure for our services. We provide top line services. We're a full service property management company. So we do, of course, all the laundry, we do all the housekeeping, we do all the maintenance. We even have an in-house hot tub company to keep hot tubs up and running clean and without any issue for back-to-backs and anything in between. So sometimes some owners will try to, negotiate pricing, which we can't really do, because we're already providing a fair deal for those that are on program with us.
Mhm.
So sometimes if it's like a couple things, if it's something that's reasonable, we'll work with them. But those that are just like, I can't go above this, we're like, we're so sorry. That's something that we just can't, there are companies that can meet this for you. We cannot. So we usually recommend out that way. Um, And even sometimes it's some owners that if there's an owner that says, "Hey, I have this home, but I want to make sure I want to be able to stay in it for a certain period of time." And we're very flexible with homeowner stays, but there are some homeowners that if they're in for 2 weeks every month, that gets a lot harder to accommodate, especially when we're, spending all this time advertising their home, getting them bookings, and especially if homeowner has plans to kind of have, oh, well, I might change this and stuff like that. The last thing we want to do is have to move a guest because a homeowner unfortunately had a last minute change of plans and stuff like that, which obviously if that happens, it's not going to make or break it like once or twice. But if we see that there is a possibility that that might be something that causes significant friction down the line, we are going to likely recommend that maybe they find a meet with a different property management company that might be a better fit for them. So kind of stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
very rare that we meet a homeowner that we're straight up like we can't meet your needs. But there are things that I think our team works hard to try to mitigate issue with down the line quite early.
So what I'm hearing is that transparency is a big element of it for you and how you manage
Abs-
those, and
Absolutely.
holding strong about your values, about what you do, and the worth of it. Maybe
Thank you.
what makes somebody not a good fit for that,
That's a
right?
very kind summation. Yes. In the end, of course, we want our partnership to be beneficial for both our owners and ourselves. We want everybody to be happy, and the guests, of course, the guests. So, if it's something that if we're seeing the writing on the wall, and it's just something that may not result in positivity for people involved, then we will likely recommend that they meet with a different company to try to suit their needs.
Very cool. No, I'm not going to ask you that, but I started to ask you something. I'm going to pass on that question. Um, well, then
Curiosity.
let's, if you don't mind, kind of circling back. You talked about customer service and experience, and you did a good job of kind of explaining where you think Village goes really above and beyond. I am curious, and this is kind of off script, but if you have one, I'd love to hear it. Can you give maybe a great example? Is there like a success story that comes to mind where you guys went out of your way to help somebody out?
Oh, yeah, I not to toot our own horns, or rather our front desk team's horns. They're the ones that so we're very lucky to have four amazing individuals up at our front desk, and they are in office. Normally, we have some winter hours right now, but normally they're in office every day to take phone calls from 8 to 5, whether that's from guests in homes or guests calling to book reservations. We actually have a significant number of guest reservations booked over the phone still, which is something I wouldn't have expected coming into this role, but was very surprised and excited to see. It's great because it gives an opportunity to build that relationship immediately. But we had this review come through a couple months ago, and it was this woman who was very sweet, and she basically left us a Google review talking about how unfortunately um, she had recently been diagnosed with cancer, and she was about to start her chemotherapy, and she had this booking. I'm trying to remember the exact details. I think she was trying to figure out a booking with us, but it didn't work out. But she hadn't even, I guess in the end, sorry, I'm tripping all over myself right now.
No, all
But
good.
but she actually ended up not even booking with us, and she still left this lovely review talking about how our team went above and beyond to try to meet her needs, to try to find her a house that fit. I think unfortunately with her timelines and just the things she had going on with her life, she wasn't able to make things work to come down. But when she has her chemo, she was planning on making sure she booked directly through us so that she could have a
Mhm.
stay with us when things and timelines worked out. But that's always the thing we talk about when we interact with our guests, and especially when we interact with guests who are maybe, not so happy with circumstances, whether that's something that was preventable or not. You never know what a guest is coming to your area for. You never know why a guest is staying in your home. And when you are dealing with individuals whose lives you can't see every bit and piece of, something that seems relatively small and insignificant on a day to day may be extremely significant and, really emotionally involved for them. So, our team is really exemplary at treating every guest, no matter what attitude they sometimes bring to the table, with that
Right.
kindness and that knowledge of, yeah, sometimes you book a home and a hot tub's down, which sometimes that happens. It's not great, and it's definitely not our goal to have a hot tub not functioning when someone arrives at a home. But working to find that solution, working to make sure that they feel that they're going to have everything they need, if we like really going above and beyond to make sure that they make their stay feel as comfortable and as exemplary as possible so that they get everything they need from this vacation out of it, is part of the reason why I'm so proud of our team up front.
That's awesome. It sounds like a great approach to the customer service side. And some good notes on what to keep in mind when you're dealing with the difficult guests. So this is this has been some great information about, kind of up to date what you've done, how where you feel like you're really successful. I am curious, kind of looking towards the future. I do have a couple questions as well. I mean, what are you seeing in other property management businesses, whether it be competitors or sort of, leading companies in the industry that you're looking to adopt for village properties as you grow and evolve?
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting things I've been looking at is actually a rewards program. And that's something that we've been looking at for a while. We have a guest perks program, which I think is actually one of those underrated strategies that can be utilized. Back to that previous question. It's something that, especially with how the economy's kind of leaning the last couple months to upcoming times, a lot of people are uncertain. So the more value you can give your guests, the better. It just really helps seal that deal and makes them feel like they're really getting the most out of their stay. But we have basically a perks program that we've basically created from scratch. And we do it by engaging with the local businesses in our area. Sunriver, as I'm sure you kind of maybe have seen, is a pretty small, like I said, resort community. And the businesses here were all very tight knit, we're all very community oriented. So we wanted to create a program that not only engaged our guests with the businesses around us, but also allowed our businesses to connect with those guests, at least indirectly through our website and stuff like that, and just give them opportunities to go support those local businesses. But I think the thing that we really want to implement that I've seen some other companies do is a true rewards program. We have some guests that we are very thankful for that have stayed with us throughout the years, that have spent a significant time in our homes, and we wish it was easier to track in our system right now basically who those people are and decide what rewards we'd like to offer them. So that's something we've been looking at trying to find for a while. We haven't found the perfect fit yet, but hopefully, I'm praying somebody comes out with a great program that can kind of plug in and really help out with that. That's something I think that we would be very interested in if we rolled up on. So if anybody has any recommendations, I'll take them.
Yeah,
Um,
pop those in the chat frame if you got them, right?
Another one that we've been looking pretty hard at least me personally, is connected TV ads. So that's ads that'll go into homes, usually on your television through apps like Hulu, YouTube, stuff like that. So it's basically the traditional television ad, just not on your direct TV channels. But what's great about connected TV is that it allows you to get into those homes in that traditional setting, but also with a much more targeted approach. You can target specific homes based on age demographics, interests, stuff like that. So it kind of allows you to take effectively, in my opinion, the meta approach of specific audiences in a traditional TV setting. So that's another thing
Yeah.
that I think is going to be really important, especially as people are definitely utilizing these apps. It's definitely a space worth investigating to try.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you bring that up because as a human being with a TV, I get served those ads a lot. But one thing you mentioned there that I think is probably worth at least taking a look at is where Meta has crunched down so much on your ability to target and better understand the data. And there's been all the privacy protections, through the different tech companies. Something where you can stay really, really targeted and not have to really fire off in the dark is just probably something to look at. And they're finding more and more places to put those ads.
Absolutely, yeah.
Pause
Another one,
screens in between.
exactly. I know it's almost kind of annoying, but you look at it and you go, well, maybe we can fit ourselves in there at least.
Maybe I need that smoothie machine, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing worth considering. If you're serving ads to an audience that traditionally is more annoyed by stuff like that, maybe consider that piece. Be picky about who you serve ads to and where, because some groups will definitely be more annoyed by it. And it's definitely worth doing a little bit of legwork on research before choosing those placements. So.
Absolutely. Any other big um, new strategies in your crosshairs?
I think that's the hard thing is it's the funny thing is I think there's new tools, but the strategies remain the same. Always be testing your ads. I think the worst thing you can do is set and forget stuff. I think either whether it's um, monthly, sometimes even weekly, but or at least annually, reevaluating your placements, whether that's traditional placements, digital placements, or otherwise, looking at it and truly asking yourself, is this working? Am I doing this just because I'm comfortable with it and we've done it for however many years? I think the worst thing you can do is let comfort breed complacency, especially when it comes to your ad spend. So that's something
Absolutely.
yeah, it's hard, right? It's hard because you're like, ah, I've advertised in this magazine for years, and traditionally we've actually there's placements we've looked at recently where even the last year, there about a year ago, we were doing great in these placements, and also making sure you have tracking capabilities for your placements, especially print. And there's many ways to do that with QR codes and tagging. Um, there's great tools. If anybody I'm happy to share a link to the tool I use to tag my ads that helps you basically just see when you do it correctly, you can connect it to your Google Analytics and you can see when people use a QR code, how many times they've used it, and even if it's resulted in an immediate purchase. So there's a lot of ways you can do, even for traditional print ads, that help you better track where people are going and what they're doing when they use it.
Yeah, if you're
But
working in and out of the digital space, right, there is the ability to track in both.
absolutely. It's definitely not foolproof. If someone manually types in your website from your ad, that's not going to track it. But if people do scan a QR code, there are ways to tag it so that you can see it, which is really invaluable at times. But yeah, sorry, I distracted myself.
No.
Yeah, there was an ad placement recently that we've been advertising with them for a very long time. And even a year ago, we were really kicking butt with it. And then we started to see our engagement with it just kind of really dwindled to a point where it was no longer feasible to keep them at least full time. So we actually kind of pumped the brakes on it, took the gas off, gave it a couple months, made some smart investments in it based on historically our data of what has done well to kind of try to retest it. But yeah, you'll find that you get better engagement if you can put your ad money in a place that gets better engagement. So
Yeah, great. Well, that's very good advice. Stuff that we would back as well. I'm curious, just as we start to run towards the end of time here, we don't have a lot of questions, so we can probably run over my
yeah,
plan time of maybe 1:45. So I am curious, uh, kind of one, can you maybe list off sort of the tech stack that Village Properties is using from like an industry tool standpoint, from an operational standpoint, but also maybe as a secondary caveat, would you be willing, if anyone had questions about any of these and your experience with them, to maybe let them reach out to you directly if they wanted to? Are you comfortable with
yeah,
that?
I am always very open to sharing the wealth, share.
Mhm.
I'm always very happy to talk with other people if they need any recommendations, ideas. Please feel free to reach out. And yeah, our tech stack. So especially because I think I'm going to stick just with the vacation rental management. We also have a long-term and a real estate piece. I think like many of our companies do, but just
Yeah.
for vacation rental. So our PMS is done by Escapia. We actually just switched over with them. They had some great opportunities for us, so that was really interesting to see how they've grown recently. Of course, RealTech is definitely part of our tech stack. You guys manage our website, our Google Ads, and part of our email e-blasts.
Mhm.
I would think you guys are technically part of the tech stack, yeah?
Yeah,
Technically.
I would if someone has raised their hand, I'll do it,
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess if we're being like that, WordPress is what runs our
Yeah, it's your
website.
CMS that we built your
Yep,
site on. Yep.
absolutely. Our email provider that we utilize for our e-blast specifically is going to be Brevo, otherwise known previously as Sendinblue. Um, Shoosh. We use things like Beyond Pricing, really helpful for our automatic pricing system and stuff like that. Um, we've also recently been testing with Adaptive, who is a pretty new player to our space. They're an AI tool that basically recommends properties to visitors in a strip on your website. They also have recommendations in other places if you want that. And we have been testing with them recently. They're one of the AI ones that we kind of honed in on, are like, this would be helpful. Let's see, to getting, more direct bookings once people are on our site. Let's see if it's a good one. So we're testing with them right now. And so far it's been a very pleasant experience. So That's been, I guess, one that we've had at least temporarily added to our tech stack. I'm trying to think if there's any blind spots that you know of like this help me out, because I think I'm kind of nearing.
You're using any, popular communications tools, Arubaroo, Breezeway, things of that nature. Do y'all use any of those?
Not currently. I think we are utilizing the tools we have immediately within our PMS system. Yeah, we've looked at Breezeway, but I think unfortunately we're small enough that it's still just not a good fit for us.
Makes sense to
They
me.
are pretty amazing. We've been we've been dazzled for sure. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Booking
Totally.
Pal is kind of what we used to kind of disseminate to a lot of our OTAs. Um,
Gotcha.
mhm. Yeah, so
Good deal.
nothing too
No, go
crazy.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say nothing too crazy. We use
Gotcha.
Teams to
Well, nothing
communicate.
wrong with the
Yeah,
streamline process, right?
I think it's better. I mean, that's definitely the way to do it these days. And I know there's a lot of tech out there that talks about trying to more streamline things. Yeah, sometimes it's really worth the funds to get things, yeah, honed in, streamlined, so that there's just less tabs you have to have open. It can be really beneficial.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate all your answers here. Again, I'll put out to our attendees today if there are any questions. Now you can put those in the chat. If you want to reach out to Amy, we can put her email address in there if that's something you're comfortable with, Amy. You kind of signed yourself up for some questions if anyone had any. Um, and since
Yes,
I've got you,
best of
yeah,
my
go.
knowledge.
Trying to see if there was any other great questions we wanted to ask you here today. And this is maybe one that I'll certainly get something out of. So while we've got you, anything that you look at as like a pivotal moment for Village Properties, maybe in the last year or during your time, where you feel like the the direction the company was going and the way you went about your business had changed?
Yeah, there's been a couple for sure. I think I kind of already referenced one. I think especially in the last year, a huge pivotal moment was looking at that ad placement we had in that magazine that was doing really great for us, and it was like January. It was really doing great. We had a great number of bookings come through it and a significant number of revenue come through it because we were at the time able to track with basically we utilized a discount code that only this placement got, so it's really easy to see who's making bookings through this ad. And in January of last year, we did really great, had high number of bookings and then high number of revenue. Well, the next month we had almost, it was interesting. We went from a quarter page placement in January to a half page placement in February, or the next print run basically, and
Mhm.
it doubled our bookings, but it kept the revenue the same, which I'm like, ooh, that's interesting and also a little worrisome. And then we basically continued to see revenue per booking drop and also bookings drop. So it was a really pivotal time. It really changed how we engaged, especially with these some of these longer um, ad placements that we've had, and also some of our marketing, because then we start to look at, well, what is the cause for this change? Is it that this group of people is no longer engaged? Is it part to how people are feeling about the economy right now? Is it, what are people just not interested in our area right now, or as they were historically? Is it a mix of things? So it's those kind of eye-opening moments that make you really reevaluate where you might have been comfortable and sitting kind of cushy. This isn't so cushy anymore. What do we have to do to try to sidestep, mitigate, and then get back on track with our goals here for our marketing strategies? Another one, I would say, it was a little bit further back, but it was in 2023, we ran, I think, our first official for the company that I at least know of. Maybe there was one before my time, but at least in the last couple of years, it was our first attempt at a true marketing run for a Black Friday sale. And it did so well for us. The interesting part was that we mainly promoted it to our newsletter subscribers. And it
Mhm.
really proved to me how significant email marketing is inside our space, at least for our guests. And beforehand, email marketing was something that was to me, in my mind, worth investing in, but certainly nowhere near as significant as this proved to me. So that was probably more of a personal epiphany than an industry
You're
wide.
the one we're talking to. It's fine.
That's fair. That's fair. But those are probably the two things that in the last year and a half, I've really clung to as big moments for my shift and how I've looked at our marketing and how our team has looked at our marketing as a whole.
That makes perfect sense. Well, if you've got time for one more here, I'll kind of summarize a couple questions I have, but looking towards the future, looking towards 2025 and the years coming after that, what are some challenges you see coming around the corner for Village Property and maybe what are some opportunities?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think it's a kind of two sides of the same coin here. So I think a big challenge that we're seeing based on reports, I follow the State of the American Traveler report, which is done by Future Partners. It's a monthly newsletter. They do some other stuff, but they have some other sources that you could pay to provide. But their blog is free, and their monthly kind of webinar that goes through the blog is free to view and very useful. It basically every month they interview a number of American travelers. So that's people who are actively traveling within a certain amount of time in America. And kind of gets reads on how they feel about the future, how they feel about budgets, how they feel about their plans for traveling, stuff like that. I think it's really useful, especially when you're choosing like what subjects to focus on to try to advertise to people, what groups you're focusing on, and also maybe what tone you're going to be using. So some of the recent reports I saw for this last month from them was talking about how basically people are kind of tightening their budgets, and those that are traveling have overall a smaller budget than they had previously for travel throughout the year. And what that kind of tells me is that we're likely going to see a shift in the demographic that will be traveling. If people are tightening their budgets, only those that are going to be able to really afford travel quite freely are likely going to be doing it more often.
More disposable budget.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So we're likely, and you got to ask, well, who has more disposable budget? So then we're likely going to see, an age shift as well as income shifts to the people that we are catering to. So that does make it harder at times. If that is what's truly going to happen in the coming months, we're likely going to see a shrinking basically of the pool of people that we are going to be hosting on a whole in the travel industry. But I also see this as actually a great opportunity in us. We'll have effectively greater opportunities when catering to these people to really impress people and to help them create lasting memories inside our homes, inside our communities, even especially when they need it most at times. Even though someone maybe has an income doesn't mean that maybe life is going great. And sometimes people are getting, no matter what, people always take a vacation, not only to spend time with their loved ones or to get new experiences, but, to kind of escape for a while. So if you look at this opportunity as we have these people who are effectively possibly very high value clients, if you can really impress them in that first stay, if that is their first stay with you, then you're very likely to get that high income client to be a returning guest. So to me, it kind of goes back to that guest services. Not that we shouldn't be doing our best all the time, but if we look at this and see that this is a great opportunity to try to create that lasting relationship with that
Mhm.
client, it's something that we can really benefit from in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a pretty clear path forward to me.
Yep, always is, in my opinion.
Well, Amy, I'd so appreciate you getting on with us today. Lots of good information, lots of good perspectives. You guys clearly have a pretty strong operation and are accomplishing a lot with the marketing side. On behalf of our attending clients today, thank you for joining. To everyone who came on, thank you so much for joining us. Again, we'll be doing these more in the future. So if you have any questions for us about these, keep in mind, this is content that to some degree you have some control over. If there's things you want to hear about from, your peers in the industry, other RealTech clients, my email's there in the chat. Don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know what you'd love to see on a future episode, so to speak. Unless anyone has any questions, we can wrap up here. I know I saw one hand raised, but I'm not sure if that was incidental or not. All right. Well, then thank you guys so much. We will let you go and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Amy, you take care, okay?
Yep. Thank you, everybody. It was a huge pleasure to be here with you. And I hope you guys all go into 2025 just blazing. It's going to be a great year as long as we allow it to be.
All right.
All
Let's
right.
hope so. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.
Take care. Thank you.